Hey, everybody, Jack Barros here. Many of you know me as Jackie B. After more than 40 years as a club and mobile DJ, I've learned something important. People don't want hype, they want answers. So, welcome to Voices on Main Street, where local businesses get a real voice to answer the questions that real people are asking already. Now, here's what this show is all about: real questions, real answers, real people. We're giving local businesses a voice right here in the community. There's no scripts, there's no hype, there's no faceless algorithms. It's just real conversations, people that do the work every day. On this show, we shine the spotlight on a local business owner and the experience that they bring to the table. But I got to tell you, it takes more than a spotlight for a business to grow. It takes a community. That's where you come in. Later in the show, we'll show you the best way you can help lift up today's guests and support their business right here on Main Street. And speaking of supporting local businesses, we couldn't do this show without the sponsors who believe in strong communities and real conversations. So stay with us. When we come back, we're putting the spotlight on today's guest and diving into questions people are already asking. All right, I just want to take a quick moment to tell you what makes Voices on Main Street different. If you're watching this episode, it's because you want real answers. And that's what Voices on Main Street is built around, asking the questions that people are already asking, whether they're typing it into Google, asking Alexa, Siri, or even your friends. These are the questions that matter before you spend your time, your money, or your trust. Every conversation you hear on this show is all about clarity, understanding how things really work straight from the people living and working right here in your community. And when you tune in, you're doing more than listening. You're helping shine a light on local voices, the local businesses, and local stories that deserve to be heard. So this conversation is helping you. Stick with us, and let's keep moving Main Street forward together. All right, back to the show. Welcome back. See, that was a quick one. Today's episode is a fun one. I'm sitting down with Tony from Step and Dance Studio. If you've ever thought, I'd love to dance, but I've got two left feet, well, you're going to want to stick around for this conversation. Tony is trained and performed in a wide range of dance styles, everything from ballroom to salsa. He's built a reputation for helping everyday people discover that dancing isn't just for professionals, it's for anyone willing to take that first step. And I'll tell you something personally. I've taken a lot of dance classes over the years, and Tony is hands down the best teacher I've ever had. So, what makes him different is his philosophy. Every individual has the ability to learn, and his job as a teacher is to figure out how to help you do it. In fact, he even runs a class specifically of people who say they have two left feet. So, if you've ever wanted to learn to dance, build confidence on the floor, or just have a great time moving to music, you're going to enjoy hearing Tony's story and his approach to teaching. So let's jump in and meet our guest. Tony, welcome to Voices on Main Street. How you doing today, brother?
Very good. How are you?
Good, 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 good. Right. This is one of my favorite traditions here on Voice on Main Street. It's called Pass the Mic. So every guest doesn't just share their story, they leave behind a question for the next voice coming down Main Street. Today's question comes from Brian Curl, the owner of Curl Animation, where he helps businesses bring their ideas and stories to life through animation. So Brian passed this question to today's guest and for you out there in the viewing public. So here's the question. Tony, when you think about the work you do and the people you serve, what's one thing you wish more people understood about your industry?
That dancing is really good for you mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Interesting. And as I speak, I know that what he says is true, and I've learned that from him. All right. Now, this isn't just for our guests, folks. If you're watching or listening right now, we want to hear from you. What's one thing you wish people understood about the work that you do? All right. I want you to drop your answer in the comments because conversations like this, how we keep learning from each other here on Main Street. All right. So let's get to the backbone of this show. All right. And we're jumping into the segment. It's called People Are Asking. And these are the real questions people are typing into Google, asking Siri or Alexa, or even asking AI when they're trying to figure something out. So instead of guessing, we go straight to someone who actually does the work every day. So, Tony, I'm going to throw 10 of these questions at you. Give us the answer like you're helping someone who just searched this 5 minutes ago. And then if we need to, we'll expand on it or shorten it. So if you're researching this right now, these answers should help you to know exactly what to look for. All right, Tony, let's help some people out. A lot of people say they've always wanted to dance, but they feel like they missed their chance. Is it ever too late for someone to learn how to dance?
It's never too late. You can basically start at any age. Actually, if you can walk, you can learn to dance, even if you think that you have to left feet.
All right. He's right because y'all know me. I'm a little bit on the elderly side, and a lot of the people that we take class are older than me. So I that is definitely true. All right. So one common concern people have is whether they need to have natural rhythm to get started. So the question is, can someone actually learn to dance if they think they have no rhythm at all?
Yes. The fact is that if you really think about it for a second, everything we do is learned. So someone that doesn't have rhythm, they can learn it. So yes, they can learn.
Awesome. Awesome. Right. Well, a lot of people will wait till the big event is coming up, before they think about dance lessons. So, what are some situations when someone should seriously consider learning to dance?
Any situation, dancing actually it's good because if you go to an event, any party, and they play, some music, you want to be able to get up and dance. So you want to be ready.
Always ready. That's
Yep.
great, great. And the first time, as they feel nervous about walking into their first dance lesson. So, what typically happens in someone's very first dance lesson with Tony?
A lot of times, because I have in the 30 years that I've been teaching, I've always have asked. Sometimes I think that people are, they start creating things in their mind that, oh my God, are people gonna make fun of me or all these crazy things that are actually not real. And sometimes they actually wait for a long time before they come into a class. But the fact is that uh, each person that comes in has those same thoughts. You know what I mean? So I always tell people, that just feel like when you come in with me, for example, when you come in with me, you're gonna be comfortable. As soon as you get in, I make sure that you feel comfortable, and as you know, I kind of like connect with each person. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yes, exactly, exactly. You do make us all feel comfortable, and there. I think he said Tony said to me once, everybody has a different way of learning,
correct.
and he's figured that out. So let me ask you this: 'cause people often wonder how long it actually takes before they feel comfortable. How many lessons does it usually take before someone can confidently dance in public?
That's a very good question, and that questions I get it a lot. When somebody asks me that questions, I always tell them that I don't really know because it's the truth. Each person learns differently, so I would be lying to you if I say, oh yeah, in I don't know 5 lessons you're gonna be dancing, because I don't really know. As you start to take the classes, then you'll find out how you learn, and then you kind of like see yourself when it is that you're kind of ready to get out there and start dancing. You know what I mean? When you feel comfortable, you have to feel comfortable yourself.
So I'm going to add some to that. You got to practice in between lessons.
Correct. Correct. I always say practice 5 minutes a day.
5 minutes, yeah,
Yep, that's all I
yeah.
ask because through the years, I always tell people practice, before they come to the next lesson. And what happens is if they don't practice, they forget everything that we actually, learned in class. So it's important to practice so that we retain the information and, the patterns and the moves that you learn in class.
Yeah, I can testify to that. When Carol and I practice during the week, it's like we get to class, we know what we're doing. It's so much
Exactly.
better, and we're ready to learn something new. All right. Well, let me ask you this: some people want to learn alone, while others only want to dance with a partner. Do you need to bring a partner to learn how to dance, or can someone start on their own?
You can actually start on your own. As you know, we actually do a rotation in the class. Some partners they don't want to rotate, and that's fine. I recommend the rotation, and the reason why I recommend the rotation is because when you rotate, you're actually dancing with different partners. So you're practicing as a male, you're practicing your lead, and as a female, you're practicing your following. So it enhances your
Interesting.
dancing.
Interesting. All right, let me ask you this. When people start researching dance lessons, they quickly realize there's a lot of different styles, right?
Correct.
So, so how should someone decide which type of dance they should start learning first?
That's a very good question. I think I always say this, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I say to people that if they can learn how to dance salsa, they can learn anything.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, really?
Yeah.
So, is it because that one's more difficult, or
I
is it
wouldn't
just
say difficult. I would say it's challenging at first, but salsa is kind of like the technique that I use to teach the salsa. It actually applies to. I would use the same technique to teach any dance. So yeah, so a lot of the students that take my classes, like the salsa classes, sometimes they go on and let's say they take another class, another type of dancing, and they say, "Wow, it makes it's a lot easier now because they understand it better."
after teaching people for years, instructors usually notice patterns in what holds people back. So, ask Tony, what's the biggest mistake people make when they first try to learn how to dance?
What do you mean by the biggest mistake?
I guess I think that from my personal perspective, the biggest mistake that I make is not practicing. So if you're trying to teach someone how to dance, what's the biggest mistake? Would you say that is it, or is there something else that people do or that we do as students when we first try to learn? What
Yeah,
do we do wrong?
that's one of the biggest mistake, right? Not practicing, but also putting pressure on yourself. A lot of people they don't give themselves the time to learn. They want it now. You know what I mean? Like it's like in dancing, this is skill. You know what I mean? I promise. I tell people I'm gonna teach you how to dance, but I don't have a magic boom. You're a dancer. It requires some practicing, and it requires for the person to put time into it. You know what I mean? Because if some people come with the, I don't know, with the idea that you're gonna learn everything in one class, and that's impossible. You don't learn anything like that. Yeah.
Sure, sure. All right. Well, so that brings me to my next question. There's a lot of assumptions people make about dancing before they ever try it. So what's a common myth that people believe about learning to dance that just isn't true?
The fact that they have two left feet. There-
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
such thing. If you can walk, you can learn how to dance. You know, I even have that class. It's called Salsa for Two Left Feet because, every time I was doing promotion for the classes, people would say, "Oh, no, no, it's not for me. I got two left feet." I'm like, interesting. Everybody's saying the same thing. But the fact is that you can learn how to dance. You can actually, if you really think about it, I always say this, and I figured this out by teaching. If you have, the key is in having the right information to be able to do it. Because when you struggle about anything, it's because the information you have, I believe, is not correct, and that's why you're struggling.
All right, we got one more question for you.
Yeah.
I've helped a lot of people get out on the dance floor who never thought they could. After teaching so many different people, what's the one thing you wish that everyone knew about learning to dance?
That dancing is fun, that it's not hard to learn, that you got to put in the time. It's not gonna happen overnight. Even though on the first class I can have somebody doing the basic and dancing, you know. But if they don't practice, let's say you come in and you do the basic step and you're doing it and you're having like, wow, this is awesome. I thought I couldn't do it, and then let's say a couple of days went by and you didn't practice in those a couple of days, then it's gone because it's new to your brain.
Excellent. All right, great. Boom. That's people are asking. Those are the real questions people are searching when they're trying to figure this out. So if you're researching right now, hopefully these answers helped you to understand what to look for and what matters most. And if there's a question we didn't cover today, drop it down in the comments below. We may feature it in a future episode of Voices on Main Street. All right, we just covered what people are asking when they're researching online, but now I want to shift gears because the right question at the right time can save someone a lot of frustration, money, and time. So the next segment we'll do is called What You Should Be Asking. And when someone is looking to learn how to dance, what questions should they be asking So these are great because the right question for them again can save someone a lot of frustration. So Tony, what's a question if I'm looking to learn how to dance and I'm calling a dance studio or instructor, what's something that I might not think to ask that you think is important?
If they actually do this full time, if they, do the dancing full time, and also, how long they've been teaching. The longer the instructor has been teaching, I believe it's gonna be better because of the experience that he has in dealing with different clients. So yeah, I think that's important. Not to
Nice.
say that someone maybe that just started might be good, but I believe it makes a difference.
All right. Is there anything else that maybe I should think to ask an instructor, a future instructor?
Well, a lot of times I tell people because, for example, I moved from Fort Lauderdale to Ocala. I used to have the studio over there, and now I'm teaching here in Ocala. And I still get calls from people from over there asking me that type of question, who I recommend. And I tell them, I say, look, the best thing you can do is to go, and actually take the class and see if you match with the instructor, because I have recommended, in the past somebody, and the person called me back and they were like, oh, this person you recommended, it wasn't, it was not good. I couldn't, so I said, look, I said, I'm not gonna recommend anybody anyhow. You know what I mean? I just
Certainly.
gonna tell them, just go ahead and try the class and see if you like it and, if it's a match for you and you go from there. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, John,
Yeah.
that was great and some good advice. Just take
Yeah.
that lesson. All right. So now, again, that's the question we should be asking. Before the conversation get going any further, we are going to take a quick moment to thank one of the businesses that helps make this show possible. And so stay right there. We'll be back in a moment. And when we come back, it's time for one of the most fun parts of the show, the local loop, our mystery spin. And we'll spin the wheel and see what Tony lands on. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch gears and have a little bit of fun. This is called the local loop. There's a purpose to it. Okay, it's one spin, one landing, and whatever it lands on, that's what we're gonna do. All right, here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, could be the love drop, the local lift, it could be the curveball cue. Nobody knows behind the biz. Oh, it's gonna end up on curveball cue. All right, so I apologize ahead of time because I just make this up. So, so with that in mind, let me think of us a really good question for my friend.
You're
So
fine.
a curveball cue. This is a random question that I'm just going to make up based on our show today. So I don't think I've asked you how long have you been in teaching and give us a little idea of your background here.
I've been teaching for, I don't know, maybe about 30 years. So yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. Now, how I got into teaching, for me, it was like therapy, honestly. If you go to my website, I tell a little bit of the story. When I was a kid, my father got killed when I was 11. So, my
Um,
mother started to look for activities that I could do because I guess I was traumatized at the time. And the activity that actually I connected with was dancing. I started to dance really young. Then at the age of 15, I moved to Miami. And with these 6 months, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to like teach people how to dance. Yeah.
really? Well,
So yeah, I applied to a local dance studio and they gave me like a test of dancing kind of thing to see how I would do, and they liked what I did, and after that they hired me, and then I went on. I started training. I became eventually a trainer for other instructors. And then after 10 years, I went on my own and I started teaching. One thing I realized though, because I got into competition as well, but but I didn't do competition that long because I realized that competition was not my forte, but I didn't get into dancing because of competition. You know what I mean? I got into dancing because it actually helped me, without me knowing that it was helping me. So I decided to actually gear to teaching on how to social dance. And that's what I do because I know how good dancing is for you, in many different ways. Yeah.
And I know you told me some of the stories of the people that doctors and people that like that you've taught. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that insight into your background. It helps us to know who Tony is. All right. Now it's time for another fun part of the show. And some of you might remember this, my generation. Tony, I think, is borderline, but you remember time to make the donuts, right? And that was an analogy Dunkin' Donuts had the baker guy. You get up bright and early, and the whole analogy was, hey, it's time to make money. And that's what we're here to do today to help Tony with his business. So, again, we call this segment Time to Make the Donuts. And here's how it works. Now, I'm about to read off three different versions of a short commercial, right? And each one have a different style and message. And what's going to happen is I'm going to ask Tony to pick which one he likes right now, and that may become a commercial that we start using. Now, what we want the audience to do, that's you watching, is to help us determine what is the best one, right? Which one resonates with you? And so, what I'm going to, after I read them, I'm going to ask you to put in option one, two, or three in the comments, and we'll be checking, and your voices will help decide which commercial actually represents Main Street best. All right, Tony, it's time next to make some donuts. Okay, in three, two, one. Have you? Rough start on that one. I sound like a squeaky like a mouse. Yeah, you don't want that one. Okay, here we go. Have you ever watched people dancing and thought, I wish I could do that? The truth is, most people who learn to dance don't start with rhythm, they start with a great teacher. Tony Duarte Step and Dance helps people across Ocala and Bellevue learn how to dance in a way that's relaxed, beginner friendly, and actually fun. Whether you're preparing for a wedding, want to learn salsa, or just want to feel confident on the dance floor, Tony focuses on helping you build confidence one step at a time. Because dancing isn't about being perfect, it's about enjoying the moment. Visit Salsa Board Tropic. I'll put that in the chat box or on the screen. So his website, so you can learn how to start your first dance lesson. All right, I'm going to end up reading that one again. How do I say that?
Salsabortropical.com.
Salsa Board Tropical, just the way it looks. Okay,
Yeah.
Salsa Board Tropical. All right. I would try to do better. All right. This one's kind of more dancing for life moments. And here we go. Some of the best moments in life happen on a dance floor. A wedding, a celebration, a night out with friends. Tony Duarte at Step and Dance helps people in Ocala, Bellevue learn how to dance so they can enjoy these moments instead of sitting on the sidelines. From beginners who have never danced before to couples preparing for so special events, Tony teaches in a way that's simple, welcoming, and confidence building. Sometimes the best memories start with learning a few steps. Visit salsaboardtropical.com to see how you can begin your first lesson. All right, option three. A lot of people say they want to learn how to dance, but most never take the first step. Tony Duarte at Step and Dance makes learning to dance approachable for beginners throughout Ocala and Bellevue. Whether you're interested in salsa, social dancing, but just want a new hobby that's fun and active, Tony helps people feel comfortable learning at their own pace. Because the hardest step in dancing is usually the first one. Visit salsaboardtropical.com to learn more about classes and get started. All right, Tony, those are your three time to make the donuts. Any one of those sound better to you?
Either the first one or the second one, I think.
All right, why don't I do the first one over again?
Yeah.
All right, so Tony's going to listen to the first one here. Let me cue that up. Here we go. Have you ever watched people dancing and thought, hey, I wish I could do that? Truth is, most people who learn to dance don't start with rhythm, they start with a great teacher. Tony Duarte at Step and Dance helps people across Ocala and Bellevue learn how to dance in a way that's relaxed, beginner friendly, and actually fun. Whether you're preparing for a wedding or want to learn salsa or you just want to feel confident on the dance floor, Tony focuses on helping you build confidence one step at a time. Because dancing isn't about being perfect, it's about enjoying the moment. Visit salsaboytropical.com to learn how you can start your first dance lesson. All right, folks. Tony chose option one. You heard all three. I did a little better version on that option one. You want to go with that one, Tony?
Yeah, it's fine.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Now, but drop your vote in the comments, folks. We'll be checking. All right. And so before we wrap this section, I want to take to make sure that we do the local left. So Tony, get us one local business that you respect and tell people exactly maybe why they should check them out.
One that comes to mind is Scoops ice cream.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that comes to mind because of my daughters. When first moved here, um, they're young. One was 13 and the other one was 15. So, almost in teenage years. So, we started to like driving around, on 200, and we saw that ice cream place, Scoop. So we stopped, and since then that's all they want to do a lot of times. Yeah, I would say Scoops.
This is
And
your place
if
to
people
go.
have, yeah, if people haven't tried it, they should. It's really good ice cream.
Excellent. Excellent. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you. We all love ice cream. Ice
Yeah.
cream, you scream. We all
Yeah.
scream for ice cream. All right, boys of Main Street family. Right now, we're going to flip the mic. All right. So I've been doing all the talking up to now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand that mic over to Tony, and it's his choice. He can ask me a question. He can give a shout out to somebody. He can say something to the community. He can talk about anything he wants. The only subjects that we are taboo for our show is politics and religion. We all have our own. So Tony, the microphone is yours, sir. What would you like to say?
I would like to ask a question to you.
Okay.
What prompted you to start, the dancing, taking the dance classes?
It's funny. I've been a DJ for 40 years. I did a lot of line dancing, but I never actually, well, I tried. I've taken dance lessons through the years, all throughout my entire career, and what ends up happening, life gets in the way. And it's one of those things that if you don't practice, if you don't use it, you forget it. I
Correct.
never got good enough. And so I met a beautiful lady that she wants to learn, and so together we're taking the step. And like I say, you brought us the furthest, put it that way.
Yeah. And would you say that maybe, like you say, that I brought you the furthest, but is that because of the results that you're getting?
Yeah, so I feel like that we get more comfortable with what we're doing. Like,
Correct.
you know, dancing, it's harder for guys, I think, because we have to know what we're doing. And one of the things that you told us, you're in the now. When
Yeah.
you're dancing, you're in the now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what am I going to do next? And as soon as you think about what you're going to do next, it's already too late.
Yeah.
um, so that's it's helped us in your manner of expressing it. So I think yes, we get further because of the way you've taught us.
Yeah, and I don't know, but I think that it's something fun for couples to do, I think.
Yes, it is fun for us, and we try to practice more, and it brings us together. So yeah, no,
Correct.
I thank you for what you brought for our relationship in that manner.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that was Flip the Mic. Tony flipped it on me and got me answering questions here. Now, we also believe that at Voice of Main Street, we believe if you have a microphone, you have a responsibility to use it for good. And that's why we support Voices for the Voiceless, which is we shine a spotlight on a local no-kill shelter doing incredible work in the community. And this week's organization, you're going to see it pop up on the screen. If you're local, we encourage you to learn more, support their mission in your area. Look for a local shelter. Share one of their posts. right? I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. Like their page, there's lots and lots of the animals that need a place to go. So anything that you can do to help a local shelter near you. All right, folks. Now, we started out every show with pass the mic question, and now I'm going to be asking Tony to pass the mic to the next person. So somewhere out there's another business owner or someone watching, and they don't know what question's coming. So here you go, Tony. One question, not technical, not safe, something that makes them think. What do you have for our next guest, Tony?
I would ask if what went through their mind when they thought of their business, you know,
What
and what actually made them go for it.
what caused them to go for it in their business?
Yeah,
So that's kind of two. Do you want to go with the latter part? What caused them to take that step?
correct. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, folks. That's this week Pass the Mic. What caused you to go down the path that you've chosen in life? For you business owners, what made you start this business that you're in? Awesome. Awesome. Excellent. All right. Voice on Main Street family. This is where we turn listening into action. All right. Now you just heard Tony share his story and his expertise. So now it's your turn to help carry that voice a little bit further. So here's how you can support Step and Dance right now. You can like their content. You can share this episode. You can follow their page. But the best way to show love specifically for Tony and Step and Dance, if you've worked with them, leave a Google review. Tell people what your experience was. That's how local businesses get found and they build trust. And that's how this community lifts each other up. We're powered by people, we're shared with purpose, and we're amplified by AI. All right. Thanks, folks, for sticking around. We really appreciate it. Before we go, we want to thank you for spending some time with us. If this conversation encouraged you to check out Step and Dance, then put something together special for you. This is what we call our mystery gift. It's a small thank you for listening and supporting local. So, Tony, what is it and how do they get it? What would you like to share with our guests today?
Okay, so if they when they come in for the first class, automatically, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a complimentary class or your next class after the first class. Okay, but you have to mention Voice of Main Street, okay, to be able
Oh,
to get that.
excellent, excellent. So here you go, folks. If you mention Voices on Main Street when you go to the class. Now, one thing I don't think we talked about, Tony, was all of your classes are drop in, folks. So it's not like you got to make an appointment. He has his schedule. Drop in, take the class. And what happens, of course, that first class, you might be a little uncomfortable. So what he's going to do is he's going to give you a complimentary class. You can come back and get a little bit deeper in it so that you feel more comfortable. After two lessons, you should know whether you can learn to dance with Tony. Awesome. Tony, thank you. I truly appreciate that. All right, folks, there you go. For the full story, bonuses, more conversations like this, visit us on Main Street. Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you for having me.